Here's something that most leaders don't realize. A lot of the stress that you are carrying is not because your team is difficult, but it's because the expectations are not clear. And I say that with so much compassion because I've been there myself. You're frustrated because things aren't getting done properly. You're repeating yourself. You're having the same conversation over and over and over again. And internally, you're thinking to yourself, why is this so hard? I feel like I've said this already. Why don't they just listen? And why don't they get it? But here's the shift. People can't consistently meet expectations that were never clearly set. And today we're going to talk about how to fix just that in a way that actually reduces your stress, strengthens your leadership, and creates clarity in your team. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast, where faith and leadership come together. I'm Rika, Whelan, and each week you'll discover biblical wisdom and practical leadership strategies to help you lead with confidence and honor God in every area of your leadership. Let's get started.
Now, setting expectations or having the words to bring someone back to what the actual expectations were because your onboarding process failed, then the Difficult Conversation Script Pack is definitely for you. In the Difficult Conversation Script Pack, I'm going to share with you different angles of how you can approach different and difficult conversations, turn them from difficult conversations into confident conversations. Now, I'm in the process of changing the name of this product from Difficult Conversation Script Pack to the Confident Conversation Blueprint. So if you've already purchased this product, you'll see the change coming in your portal. If you've not purchased the product yet, go right ahead because you will receive lifetime updates of all the difficult conversation scripts that you guys have been asking for. And so definitely go to womenoffaithinleadership.com/conversations to go learn more about this script pack, or as it will now be known, the blueprint. So here's what really happens to a lot of Christian women in leadership. You care deeply about your team. You want to be kind, you want to be supportive, you want to be understanding, and you want to be approachable. But instead of then being direct with your team when something goes wrong, you actually try to soften the blow. And when you actually soften the blow, that's when things can go significantly wrong. You start hinting at things, you start suggesting, you start implying, and you hope they just pick it up. But in actual fact is it's not going to fix itself. It's not going to come right if you are not going to be straightforward with them. You start thinking to yourself, it'll fix it in time. I don't want to make it awkward. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But in the process, you actually become more frustrated, more overwhelmed, more emotionally drained, and more resentful towards the team. And because your team is not incapable, but you are treating them as if they're incapable to deal with your truth, they start operating in confusion. So the deeper truth actually becomes true. Unclear expectations don't create kindness. They create instability. And instability is absolutely exhausting to lead. So I want to give you four strategies that you can use to, instead of hinting or hoping that things will fix itself, 4 strategies that you can use in your leadership to start setting those expectations clearly, which will also then reduce your stress, which is exactly what we want. Okay, number 1, stop assuming and start stating. One of the biggest mistakes that leaders make is assuming that things are obvious. Something that's obvious to me is not obvious to you. And that's because of our different backgrounds, or because of our different upbringings. And something that might be obvious to you might not be obvious to me. I have a really good example of this. It's a really simple example. But somebody who grew up in a third world country, or even worse than that, somebody who did not have access to even a proper broom, started working at a daycare center in Australia. And when they had to mop the floors or even start sweeping the floor, it was the mop, it wasn't the broom. They did not know how to use that first world mop because they were never exposed to that type of mop. So it's something that's so easy and so simple, but I would have thought that it would be obvious how to use a mop, but it wasn't. To that person, they had to learn how to use that mop because they never grew up with that upbringing of how to use a mop like that. So something very simple, but it's the same as using a computer, same as using Excel, same as using Microsoft Word. It could be any number of things. It could be technology. It could be how to clean the kitchen behind yourself, right? It's very simple and very, some of us think it's common sense, but to some people it just is not. So instead of assuming that people know, assume that they don't know and rather give them the clarity. You can ask a question like, do you know how to do that? And then if they say, yeah, of course I know how to do that, then you can say, well, I'm not a person who assumes, so I might ask you further questions like that. Don't take it personal. It's just me not wanting to assume that you know things, because the next time I ask you, you might not know that, and that'll give you the freedom to say, actually, you know what, I don't know how to do that. So stop assuming and just, instead of assuming, seek clarity from that person whether they know what to do or not. So instead of saying something like, I need this done properly, you're going to say it more clearly. I need this completed by Friday because I'd like to review it before it gets submitted to the board of directors or to the director, whoever. Okay, so clarity removes the guesswork. Number 2, be specific about what good looks like. This is really where expectations fall apart, and I mentioned it in a couple of episodes ago as well. If you want somebody to draw up a spreadsheet for you, you're not just going to go and say, draw up the spreadsheet. You're going to say, please make sure that the spreadsheet is drawn up and it's got clear borders. I want it spaced like this. I want it looking like that. Please add the company logo. If you just assume that somebody knows how to draw up that Excel spreadsheet according to exactly what you like, you're going to be disappointed. So that person might find it obvious and say, well, yeah, of course I was going to add the logo. Then you can just say, look, it's not personal. I just need to make sure that this is done correctly because it's getting submitted to the board of directors. So always be clear within that and make sure that people know it's not personal. It's not that you don't trust them. It's the fact that you want to make sure that you're clear and that your expectations are clear as well. So, for example, make sure, ask yourself, you can ask questions like this. What standard are you expecting? That's something that you need to communicate. What outcome are you looking for? That's something you need to communicate. What does success look like in this situation? Again, that's something that you need to communicate. When expectations are specific, performance improves naturally and your stress reduces significantly as well. Number 3, set expectations early, not after the problem. Okay, so this is where a good onboarding process comes in. It is very important that when we onboard people, we set the expectations clearly from the start. A lot of companies don't onboard their people properly, and then that leads to significant amount of problems down the road. So what I would suggest is go at first and have a look at your onboarding process. Make sure that your expectations are set clearly. Then when problems arise, you can troubleshoot as you go. So go and think about some issues in your company that arise constantly. Make sure that there are solutions in place to make sure that if those problems come up, those solutions are already in place. One thing that I used to do with my employees is during onboarding process, I used to say to them, these are the common problems or issues that you might experience in your time at our workplace. How do I know that? Because we've seen it multiple times come up. So to ensure that we give you a proper working environment that doesn't have these issues, or when these issues do arise, these are the solutions that I'd like to offer you. Before coming to me to seek a solution, I'd like you to seek these solutions first. And when you can then still not solve the problem, you're more than welcome to come to me. So by doing that, I'm actually reducing my own stress as well. And I'm not taking on board their problem. I'm not making their problem mine. They're actually taking their problem, solving it themselves. And if they still cannot solve it, they can 100% come to me. They're more than welcome. So this just creates that healthy relationship between them and myself. And it also empowers them to make sure that they know exactly what potential problems might come up because I've set those expectations, I've troubleshooted before the problem occurred, not afterwards. Sometimes a problem occurs that you did not expect. That's fine as well. Again, then we're going to troubleshoot. We're going to problem solve together as a team. Number 4, follow through consistently. If people struggle or if there are difficult conversations that need to be had, you need to follow through consistently. If expectations are not met, you need to follow through consistently. If somebody keeps on gossiping, or if this person gossiped, then that person gossiped, then this person gossips, you need to follow through consistently. You can not only have a conversation with one person who gossips, you need to have a conversation with everyone who gossips, and not together, individually. So you need to make sure that people get to know you as the person who follows through consistently. It is time consuming to be consistent. I understand because I had to learn the hard way as well. But by becoming consistent, people knew where they stood with me. People knew that if they did not come up the mass or if they didn't meet the expectations, that was going to warrant a conversation. So instead of having the conversation with me, they wanted to avoid that conversation, and then they just did their work properly. So that's the ideal, and that's what we're looking for. Consistency also means alignment for you and your team with the company's expectations. So if, again, like I mentioned before, your team will know that you're going to follow through consistently, so they're going to be more aligned to their expectations, to their job descriptions, to their SOPs, because they know that you're going to follow through. They know that those things are law in this company, and that if they don't follow through, then it's going to warrant a conversation. So consistency really allows you to create a culture of accountability within your team, and that's exactly what you want. A culture of accountability, it reduces your stress, it reduces your team's stress, and actually just creates this culture of you not needing to speak to your team 100% of the time, but colleagues speaking to each other and say, hey, I saw that this happened, but actually let's try and fix that before our leader, let's say Rika, before Rika sees it, because we can tell her about it afterwards, after we've troubleshooted. Now, if you've realized in this episode that you've not been as clear as what you know you should or even could be, then I highly encourage you, I'll point you back again to the Confident Conversation Blueprint, previously known as the Difficult Conversation Script Pack, where I teach you how to have these difficult conversations, how to set expectations after the problem. You should actually be doing it before, but I'm here to help you if that's not the case. How to have these conversations, and then really how to prepare for them well, because preparation is what builds confidence. We often think that confident leaders just wake up confidently one day, or leaders that are assertive are born assertive, or because they've done an MBA, or because they've done this course or that course or whatever, that's how they gain confidence or assertiveness. It's actually not that at all. The thing that builds confidence is preparation. So if you want to prepare really well for these conversations that you know you need to have, then go to womenoffaithinleadership.com/conversations, and you will learn more there about the blueprint. Now, in closing, I want to share with you that clarity is leadership. Clarity is how you protect your team. Clarity is how you reduce confusion. And clarity is how you create peace in your environment. And most importantly, clarity allows you to lead with calm, Christ-centered authority. You're not too much for being clear. You're not being harsh by setting the expectations. What you're doing, you're leading.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean so much to me to read your feedback. Also, it would really bless me big if you shared this episode with a fellow leader who might benefit from hearing today's message. And remember, put on the armor of God daily and walk by faith and not by sight. I'll meet you back on Monday for another episode.